Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your moderator, Head of Digital and Technologies for Asia and Middle East at Roland Berger, Kushal Shah, and his guests.
I can be heard? You can hear me? Everybody's ready for the future? We don't have time for the future. Let's make sure the slides go up. If the slides don't go up, we're going to have to talk the future. Does everybody know who Magellan is? Heard of Magellan? He's known to be the first explorer to have gone through the world. But that was wrong, because what happened was he reached the Philippines and he stopped his journey. The rest of the crew went on. But he's still known as the hero. And every future needs a hero. Why are we all here? Because we're painting the future, we need a hero. The heroes are the ones who drive us, who pull us, who attract us into the future. Everybody sitting here has come here to become a hero, and I want to give a very small story of where my hero comes from, and I'm sure most of you have the same hero. In 1920, my grandmother moved from India to Kenya. So she went in a steamer boat. She went through months and months of journey, lived 40 years in Kenya through rough times. But that gave me a chance to be educated, to work, and to get to this stage. That makes her my hero. Everybody here has an ancestor that's a hero. Every single person has a forefather that's a hero here. And that's why we're here. It's our duty to make sure that our children and our 4 children see us as our heroes. And that's the future. How fast is the future going to come? Now. So we have already gone through multiple evolutions. We went from hunting to farming, first era. This era is still happening. We went from rural to urban, still happening in many markets. Far to near. What has Telecom done? What has communications done? It's made our world a much smaller place. What's the new? What's the latest? What's the latest? Physical to virtual. We don't live in a physical world anymore. Half of us are already in a virtual world. The future is a virtual world. We're going to show a map in a few minutes on what that future looks like. This future has 4 axes. Very complicated. Let's look at the axes. The south axis, that's today's world. Today, we work in a routine. We wake up, we go to work, we take our children to school, they go to school, we come home, we eat, we go to sleep. It's a routine world. That's when time is moving at the pace we're used to. On the east, on the west, the human world, what's happening? The gig economy is coming into play. For them, time is of less value. They prefer to spend their time on leisure. They prefer to work when they want. They prefer to spend as much pleasure as they want. On the north, we are enslaved by technology. What do I mean by that? There are about 8 companies today that represent more than $4 trillion, which is pretty much the 4th largest nation in the world. 8 companies. Are they enslaving us? What do we do about it? How do we protect ourselves? And that's when time is moving fast. And the robot world is where time doesn't matter. Time is at 0. So which time zone do we want to be, and what do we have to cope with? Today's world, it's managed by institutions. Tomorrow's world. How many of you want to be in that leisure world? Where are we going to get that leisure world from? How will technology bring it to us? Who are those technology providers right now? We've got Google providing us that technology. When our visionaries come to stage, they're going to tell us how in the kingdom, that technology is going to give us a chance to bring these 4 worlds into our future. In this world, governments don't have a much role to play. In this world, governments are fighting the data privacy. In this world, they're bigger than governments. How do we manage that? In the robot world, who's going to run the robot world? We will have a visionary here who created the first ever robot. We're going to ask him that. Where is the energy going to come from to run all those robots? It's no longer about the car. It's about the robot. Who's going to provide that energy? What kind of energy is necessary? And of course, whenever there's change, there's always a hacker. There's always a pirate. We never had movement in our life when there's no pirate, there's no hacker. Expect hackers. We need to fight that threat. We need to give them a chance to police us, because that's their job. We're going to have some good guys. We're going to have some bad guys. Every hero has a villain. Expect that. And that's the internet of the underworld as well. Of course, some of us might go and sit on that box. We may even have one or two visionaries that will tell us how it feels like sitting in that box. But they have a role. They have a role to play, to be that hero for our future. Okay. I would like to take, we also need wisdom. There are 3 people you all know. Elon Musk, he says we are already in a virtual world. We are already playing. We're just part of a big game. None of us are real. We have the founder of the internet. He says privacy is gone. Let's not worry about privacy. Data is gone. And we have a futurist who says the whole point of making these robots is to make our full life leisure. Full unemployment is going to be great for us. These are 3 complicated worlds. These are 3 complicated visions of the future. We would like to invite our speakers now to sit with us and tell us how they're going to bring this into our world. Who's going to be I believe the first speaker is going to be His Excellency. Is he already here?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome CEO Formula E Spain, Alejandro Agag.
Welcome. Thank you. Have a seat. So, Alejandro is used to speed. That's what he does. His life is probably the fastest life. How about telling us, in your profession, where do you see the future going?
Well, first of all, Your Majesty, Your Royal Highness, it's great to see you. Highnesses, dear friends, it's a great pleasure for me to be here in Riyadh. This is now the home of Formula E, the global electric racing series. Thanks to the vision of His Royal Highness, we're going to have for the first time these cars racing here in Saudi Arabia. Thank you. This is a new kind of motorsport. We think it's the motorsport of the future. You ask me about the future. It's very difficult to see what the future holds. I don't know if any of you, well, I haven't met anyone, of course, that has traveled back in time. But I've seen it in movies. I've saw Back to the Future. I don't know if any of you remember this great movie, Back to the Future, when this guy, Marty, goes back in time and actually meets his mother. And that element that happens in the past can have huge consequences in the future. That's called the butterfly effect. The same thing applies today. Things that we do today, things that may seem very small, can have huge consequences in our future. And, you know, I would love to say that I see the future as bright and fantastic, but I actually don't know. I see a lot of contradiction. And everything goes around technology. We are going to have a world, and we have today a world, where everyone, almost practically every human being, is better off than 50 years ago. And that trend is going to continue. But at the same time, inequalities are going to be bigger than ever. there are lots of contradictions. We're in a world where we have more information than ever before, but we only stick to the headlines, and we are not able to go into the details. So we're in a world in which, okay, not everything is bad. The good news is that it's in our hands to take action. But what we have to realize is that what we do today, especially, we're in a world in which we are going to have, and we will speak about technology, the cleanest technologies ever, but we are going to come very close to climate disaster. So it's in our hands, but we have to take action now to shape our own future.
This is going to be an impressive future for Saudi Arabia. We have you competing against Formula One, which feels like faster than everybody else in the world. Yet you're coming and you're going to overtake them from behind the scene. What do you recommend for the kingdom, given that experience?
Well, for the kingdom, I would recommend that they do a race of Formula E, but that's already going to happen in 2 months here in Riyadh, so in Adiriyah. Sorry, it's going to happen in Adiriyah. So I hope to see you all there. I think motorsport, which is what I do as my passion, racing cars, has always played a role in developing the technology of cars. Before it was Formula One. I'm a great fan of Formula One. Actually, Formula One and Formula E don't compete. We're very complementary. But even the rear-view mirror comes from racing. Formula E, the electric racing series, wants to play the same role for electric cars in 2 main areas. Batteries, and already this year, our cars, for the first time, will race the whole race with only 1 car. Until now, we were racing with 2 cars. For the first time ever here in Adiriyah, we'll race only with 1 car. So we multiply by 2 the energy on those batteries. The next development is going to be ultra-fast charging, 25% of the battery in 1 minute. So we will organize pit stops to have this super quick pit stop. So yeah, that's where.
So he's bringing sports and business together so that we can all have fun. I think that's what we're starting to see the kingdom doing. They're bringing business and entertainment together. How do you recommend that going forward?
Well, I think the kingdom is really taking all the right steps. Obviously, Vision 2030 is very ambitious. That's what really brought us and attracted us to organize this race in Saudi Arabia. And it may seem almost contradictory that the country that has the biggest production of oil in the world organizes the top world electric race car. But that's just a symbol of how quick this country is embracing change. We are here to, put our little contribution to that change.
So do you believe leapfrog is possible in this country?
Well, leapfrog, you mean from Formula E to Formula One? With the help, for sure. But no, I think this country is really going on a fantastic evolution, fantastic change. We're seeing that in many things. For example, we could not race in Saudi Arabia because of our regulations if women could not drive, because our rules allow women to drive. The changes that have happened here allow for that to happen.
So maybe by next year we'll have an electric vehicle, battery operated, with a woman driver chasing everybody here.
Chasing, yeah, well, don't tell my wife. But yes, could be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Minister of Communications and Information Technology, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Excellency Abdullah Al Swaha.
His Excellency, how are you? Pleasure. I think let's. So we just finished talking about Formula One and being in the driving seat. This is a discussion about the future and technology. His Excellency is sitting in the driving seat of future and technology in the kingdom. How do you see this, and where do you see tech revolution across the kingdom? Where do you see it going?
First of all, thank you for having me here, and it's an absolute pleasure to me among some of the greatest thinkers and doers of the global investment community. This is really a story of build and transform, led by His Royal Highness. I remember 18 months back, in my first meeting with His Royal Highness, we had a dialogue about how we're going to build and transform the nation. So I pitched to him and I said to him, we're really redefining engagement experience with a totally different ecosystem. This is an opportunity to connect patients and doctors, educators to students in a new way. And he said to me, that's all great, but what are you going to do about the foundation? At that time, internet speed in the kingdom was below the average. Fiber penetration, we were touching around 1,200,000 homes. And he said to me, what does it take in 90 days, in 6 months, in 12 months to patch the foundation, and then I'll meet you again talking about the transformational journey. And I remember I spoke to His Excellency, the Minister of Finance, and I told him the internet today is a human right. It's the largest and the biggest social equalizer and the largest economic driver. It's an opportunity for us to provide the same level of education and healthcare to urban areas and to rural areas. We need to invest. And this is when things got on steroids. We approved a $3 billion stimulus fund. Fast forward today, 18 months, from 1.2 million homes to 2 million homes. Internet speed have quadrupled, and today we're above the global average. And this is when we genuinely said, now it's the foundation to talk about transformation. And working closely with His Excellency, the Minister of Health, the Minister of Education, we've launched some transformational projects. The first one in healthcare, and I'm very proud about this specific program. We said, can we put a target for ourselves? So instead of the linear thinking of 2 doctor visits per year, doubling to 4 by 2020, can we double or triple that phenomena? And we said we can deliver 50% of all doctor visits from a smartphone app called Sahi. This app helped us reduce waiting time from months to weeks to see a specialist or a consultant. And the cherry on the top is that there are some specific use cases in which we were able to reduce the human errors in the medical field by 90%. And this is only the beginning. Because with AI and data, now we're experimenting with helping with chatbot capabilities, type 2 diabetes patients be able to cope with that disease, and oncologists diagnose specific cases of cancer with 80% accuracy.
So that's a lot of technology, that's a lot of investment. Do we have the ecosystem in place?
When it comes to the ecosystem, no matter how you spin it, as all nations and countries want to transition from the old economy to the new economy, the digital economy, it's really underpinned by a solid foundation, which is the backbone of the economy, and we just touched point on it. But then you have to elevate to data platforms and talent. And on data, this year alone, we have approved 2 significant policy changes that I think will be fundamentally changing the data landscape from the kingdom. The first one, we have approved a board for data and AI headed by the Crown Prince, because the critical success factors for driving a data and platform agenda is to be able to drive it top-down, focusing on the right use cases and executing with speed. And as a matter of fact, the first use case that we have released is a use case countering unemployment. What we have done is that we have looked at structured data from the Ministry of Labor and different 20 data sources to be able to harness that data and figure out how many folks are applying for a job, couple it with data from the telecom infrastructure while protecting user privacy to be able to understand user behavior. And we have uncovered a lot of things. The first one is that those who were serious about finding a job woke up 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and they were roaming around with their phones trying to find a job. Those who were not woke up at 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and they needed a different program. These are clear examples about how we're moving at light speed, powered by the digital infrastructure and with data.
So you're bringing time into the hands of people. Very nice. the kingdom has a lot of opportunities, a lot of differentiators that allows it to, say, move faster than the rest of the world. Can you describe what we have here?
We already touched down on the top-down transformation and the ability to execute with speed. But secondly, I want to talk about our youth. While the world is facing an aging challenge, we're facing an opportunity to harness the value that our youth can bring to the table. 60% of the nation is under the age of 30, and they spend a third of their day, 2 days a week, 100 days a year in the digital space. That's potential. How can we translate it into kinetic energy with technology, with innovation? Definitely that's going to pay dividends.
We've got the virtual youth at play. What impact do you think this immersive technology will have on the kingdom?
It's the third largest portfolio in PIF. It's currently, in terms of telecom, the 12th largest market globally. And in ICT, we're #1 in MENA. And in emerging technology, we're the fastest growing. We project that AI and data is going to bring to us a $10 billion opportunity. And to accelerate that, we have a proposal on the table of the Minister of Finance again to fund a $1 billion project for basic research, advanced research, to capture and reap that opportunity.
Wow. If all the Chinese and Americans, watch out, it's coming. What challenges do you see other than finance?
I think we're no exception. The whole globe is facing a capacity challenge, a cybersecurity challenge, and striking that consistency between balancing between the private sector and the public sector. But rest assured, we are moving at light speed in accelerating and becoming the tech hub of the region. We're doing it with full confidence, clarity, and consistency. And one thing special and unique about us, once we partner for life.
Wow. I feel like investing right on the moment. Well done. I think we've met the time. Do you want to address anything else? Or?
It has been an absolute pleasure, and I welcome the whole global investment community to join hands with us in this build and transform journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Minister of Transportation, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Excellency, Dr. Nabil Mohammed Al Amoudi.
Welcome. Nice meeting you. His Excellency, Your Excellency, the mobility has been a key theme in all human revolutions. We're right in the middle of now the digital revolution. How do you see mobility play a role in this?
Thank you for having me and for hosting such a great event, and for PIF and launching this great initiative now in its second year that really has brought together some of the greatest thinkers and politicians. So it's a pleasure to be here. You started with the question, and I think the question is a big one. Transportation is what we all do every day, all the time, and everyone does it. So how do we do it as efficiently as possible in a world where technology is advancing very quickly, public budgets are getting under more constraint, and the environment is under strain as well? And the key, I think, is what I started with. How do we improve that? Improve what we do with our current assets is through technology and application of technology. In terms of kind of just smarter use of existing infrastructure, I think is the most basic thing that we can start with, and we've started to do that in many aspects here in the kingdom in terms of digitizing our import and export processes. We have a big metro here in Riyadh being built. Once all operational, it'll be integrating lights or stoplights with the metros, with the buses as well, and using data to use your existing infrastructure again as efficiently as possible. And finally, kind of on the financing side, ultimately you need roads, you need rail, you need metros, and those cost hard-earned money. And in an environment of constrained public budgets, you look at the private sector, say, how can you find the correct financial mechanisms to assist governments in developing what is really a public good for everyone.
So there's a lot of infrastructure that you're now increasing your utilization of. The PIF has made good investments in Uber and WeWorks through the SoftBank approach. So do you believe this is something that Saudi Arabia will also take on board locally?
Well, you're seeing that, and you're seeing in Lucid as well. So you're seeing a bunch of investments, certainly on the PIF side. I think on the energy consumption side as well, which is obviously a large part of what the kingdom does in terms of producing and exporting oil and gas. You're seeing Aramco moving downstream more aggressively. We had an earlier talk today about how the world of petrochemicals is going to expand by 60% by 2030, if my memory serves me. And that is certainly something that the kingdom is looking aggressively to diversify into. And you already have, obviously, SABIC as a major player in it. So other than just transport, which I know I guess I'm required to speak about, we're looking at it from a broader perspective as how do we diversify our economy, and you see it as well, a diversification into our technology as well, which will hopefully being brought back to what I deal with, which is transport, and how to use our existing infrastructure in a more efficient way and minimize the public spend as much as possible.
So if the end of oil ever came, because digital transformation, digital evolution shifted it away, how is the kingdom going to be ready for that?
I think you're seeing it as we speak. We're here in the Future Investment Initiative under the guidance of His Royal Highness and the Vision 2030. We are diversifying away from oil. We are looking to invest in technologies. We are looking to be investors in brick and mortars investments as well. So I think we're on that path. And I think that one of the biggest assets that the country has, in fact, not that I think, that I know, is our young population. A very digitized, very digitally savvy population. You just heard from His Excellency Minister Sawaha, who's leading that charge, and you'll begin to see the fruits of that in the years to come, I hope.
So where do you see the biggest challenges?
Overall, or in the transport sector?
Let's talk about the transport sector.
I think you come back to where I started, which is there remains a lot of requirements on the investment side, and these are high cash investments or high requirements of cost. How do you do them as efficiently as possible? How do you project manage them well in an environment where the best project management probably is in focus on other sectors? How do you bring that onto the public sector and ensure that the dollar that's being spent, either from an OPEX or a CAPEX perspective, is efficiently spent as possible? And that goes across, be it rail, ports, airports, or any of the other sectors that I'm responsible for.
So as we're seeing all the large cities getting into the smart city environment, into leveraging digital technology to improve efficiency, whether it's crossing the airport, whether it's leveraging shared means of transport, do you see the ministry investing a lot more in technology rather than just infrastructure?
No, absolutely, and we already are. I mean, we have digital partners, probably the most prominent one being a local company called Tabadul, as well as another local company called Ilm, which helps us to, one of them is, again, the import-export and digitizing that process, but also now we're beginning to include AVLs in all our trucking, so we'll be able to be more efficient again in how trucks move within the kingdom, and frankly, even before that, increase the safety of these trucks on our roads, and thereby hopefully create more efficiencies, not only just on the infrastructure, but even within the trucking system. We have some local companies that have been established, such as Humula, kind of the Uber for trucking, which is beginning to slowly have some traction and hopefully use existing assets more efficiently.
So one of the challenges investors talk about into the Arab world is the borders. As you transport, whether it's goods, people, or technology across borders, it does come in the way for investment. Do we see evolution in that space?
Well, I think we've seen it. I mean, we already have in the customs arena a relationship with our brethren in the UAE that has made the transport of goods and people much more efficient than it used to be. Similarly in Bahrain, I know the customs authorities undergoing a blockchain sort of trial with IBM, and we'll see kind of how that goes. So I think you'll begin to see some of those borders go down, or those constraints go down, and more efficient ingress and egress of capital, and certainly within the transport industry.
I think we can already see the evolution over the last 1 year.
We hope so,
Thank you.
in the airports.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome founder and chairman, Imar Properties, UAE, and founder, Noon, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed Alabar.
So, Mr. Labar has invested significant money in making some of these transformations happen. He's a founder of Noon.com. He has invested in probably some of the fastest changing technologies in the region. Where do you see technology going for this space?
I think, I guess everybody reads about technology, and I think we all know where technology is going because I think it's in everybody's hand. So technology is really governing the way we live, right? So the challenge that we all have is that whatever you do, what business you're in, is that I think we want our businesses to be relevant. And without this machine and without technology, I don't think any business is going to be relevant. But for me personally, honestly, I made the shift maybe a little late for my age, but I want to be relevant as well. I see my kids and I see the amount of work they do and digitally how fast they're growing. So I was a bit envious. So it's only. Look at what you do in your life and my life and your lives. So, but also, if I'm honest with you, I'm tribal a little bit. My business does easily $2 billion net profit annually, but regionally here, what are we doing? We big businessmen, what are we doing about the digital risk that the region is going through? So I really had to make the shift because I'm a bit tribal. I need to get involved in that sector because our society at risk, our businesses at risk. I think the minds of our children at risk, jobs. I agree that all these great companies all over the world, they go into technology, but I ask the question: what's wrong with us? Anything wrong with us? So it's many reasons for me personally.
So that risk or return that is in the future, how much time do we have?
I think in the region, maybe 12 months. And the reason, to be honest with you, many people, we are honored to serve many people under Noon, but how Noon is growing, that tells you that if there was somebody else in there, they could control this market in no time and there'll be no room for anybody else to get involved. Therefore, take a look at digital in general. If you look at China or you look at the West, there's only 3 players in that. 3. Why not many other people? Because to enter, you can enter, but you'll have probably two surviving companies in India, 2 surviving companies in China, and 2 in the US, or maybe one in the US. And I really want to make a comment here for many of my colleagues is that many people talk about level playing fields, and I respect that. But I really want to ask everybody, how can you have a level playing field with one company that does $25 billion in R&D? That's more than any country. So are these countries taking over? Are these companies taking over countries? I really want you all to think, and you better think seriously.
So if we want to keep the benefits of these technology investments local and to protect the environment, do you believe there's some policy, legislation, and other elements that we should be imposing?
Well, I think it's many. You can use many great examples in the world. Take a look at how India is just waking up to the risk. The government of India. Take a look at say how China did it, right? China is a great example. Call it whatever you want to call it, but at the same time, let's look at ourselves as well. We need investment from our side. We businessmen who made so much money out of these traditional economies and many great government rules and regulation. So it's about time we risk some money. And to be honest with you, I did Noon. I have 2 sovereign funds with me. So if you have a great idea, the sovereign fund will invest with you, will support you. What are these rules and regulations that really need to be looked at? I think I leave it to the governments, because I think we see some of these great, big digital players. They are so huge. Some of them, they put pressure on you. You know it well. So it's really up to the government to educate its people, put in the right policies, whatever these policies. But I think the private sector as well, we need to shape up. You want to start something new, you want to JV with somebody, collaborate with somebody, but I really think that we should do that.
So when we talk about venture capital from the US or from China, they're still cagey about coming here. They still feel maybe...
We don't need them. We don't need them. We have so much money in the Middle East. We don't need anybody to come and put any money in the Middle East. We know the allies in the Middle East. They depend on us to fund them. And I tell you, honestly, I'm in many businesses. The greatest returns over the past 20 years, the Middle East is #1 by far. So I don't need to go and invest anywhere else.
So basically you're saying for your investments like MEVP, et cetera, there is room for technology growth in the Arab world.
And from our humble experience, Saudi Arabia has been performing unbelievable performance. And I hope my customers in Saudi cities, they feel us, and we really thank them so much for their support. So we have great markets in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, the whole region.
So technology is also changing culture. We're moving into a world where it's very hard to think and act like the children we have. And
we try.
We try. But the 16-year-old is different from the 12-year-old. What do we put in place to protect our DNA, to protect our culture, to avoid technology completely ripping it apart?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we can. I mean, I always, I did some work in my early days with Zara fashion, and I always wonder why these Spanish people can design one dress that the girl in Argentina and the girl in Saudi Arabia and the girl in China wears, and the same thing probably with Starbucks. Everybody likes the taste of Starbucks globally. So I think the global scene is really changing. I think we need to do one thing: enrich our children's mind. That is really what we need to do. That is the greatest investment, and I'm sure many of my colleagues who are in the government here, they're working day and night in all of these great countries. But at the same time, it's the responsibility of the parents, people like us, to be able to come up front and look after our kids and give them the opportunities. I was very lucky that I gave my kids great opportunities from the age of 22. I was able to support them. I have a young girl, my daughter, who not young anymore, but she does. I always say that she makes money wearing her pajamas. She designed her jewelry, put it on Instagram, put this app, do this. I said, when will you ever have an office? She said, no, it's okay. I said, how much you have in the bank? She said, about $500,000. I said, you're wearing a pajama. So I think it's our job to educate them, teach them, promote, support, advise, and start with education.
I guess one last question relating to the MR world. You described how the way of working is changing. You can work from home, you don't need an office. Even homes are changing. How does that impact the MR world in how you're investing?
Well, to be very honest with you, I tell my Noon boys and girls that when I go to their office, I feel like telling all my staff in Noon, that in MR, that guys, maybe we just need to subcontract all of our work to Noon. They will do it 10 times faster. They will use technology. They will reach much bigger markets. So to be honest with you, it's changing the way I think. So I'm looking at many opportunities that how can we, besides digitizing our business, but how can we really evolve the whole construction industry, marketing, our hospitality, our retail, what's happening in retail. We have large development, and retail is a big business. How do we deal with stuff like that? But really, my last remark, if I can, I think we as businessmen in the region, we are very grateful people. We are grateful for the countries we do business in. We are grateful for the support that the society have given us, the government have given us. And I think we have a duty and loyalty to do more and be advanced, if it's technology or if it's digital in general. I think it's a duty that we have to protect our economies. Otherwise, these gorillas putting our businesses at risk. So we must work harder, faster, and put in some money. I really tell everybody, I said, if you could take 5% of your annual profit and just invest in digital, go and get somebody in digital and do a JV with them. You want to start something new, you want to JV with someone, but we must go into that scene in all sectors of the economy and all businesses.
Thank you very much.
Please, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO, STC Group, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Nasser Al Nasser.
Welcome. Very welcome. So, as we said, every technology evolution has a hero and a victim. And Telecom is on both sides of it. It's a disruptor, and it's being disrupted. How do you see that?
Well, I believe disruption is touching many industries. If we look at manufacturing industry, it has been disrupted by robotics. If we look at the automotive industry, it has been disrupted by artificial intelligence. If we look at retail, it has been disrupted by analytics and big data. So disruption is touching almost all economic sectors. Companies everywhere have been impacted. Yet, I believe one of the first who has been disrupted is the telecom operators. The OTT has been tapping in the revenues of the traditional revenues of the operator since some time. Voice has been commoditized. SMS the revenues is not anymore the cash cow for the telecom operators. And with this in mind, telecom operator has what it takes, I believe, to be able to embrace the change and to be pioneer due to their technical knowledge, due to their customer base, customer relationship, and the trust that they have implemented with time.
So you will continue to play the role of disrupting, yes?
Absolutely. We have the disruption come from two angles. First of all, we are enabler for other industries. If you look at the fourth industrial revolution, the ICT is the enabler of that one. So we have to enable others, yet at the same time, we have to transform internally. If you look at the business models and at the technology that the operators have evolved over time. Now there is cloudification represented by network function virtualization. There is a software-defined network, artificial intelligence in the operator. So we are transforming ourselves as operator in addition to enable others to be transformed.
Excellent. So now in the telecom world, we have the cloud, we have the IoT, we have 5G. What are STC's plans to use this to make the kingdom more competitive?
Well, I look at this ecosystem as a one ecosystem. If you look at the 5G, 5G is ubiquitous connections. If you look at the IoT, it is a ubiquitous sensoring. It's almost all things censored. If you look at the cloud, it's a ubiquitous servicization. Any service can be rendered anywhere, anyhow, to anybody. And this complemented by the big data and by the artificial intelligence. So with this in mind, we have taken a lot of steps. We have launched the first in the region, the first 5G live launch since May last year. We are planning to have a commercial launch in 2019 in the 5G. We have already adopted the cloud internally and externally. We have a network function virtualization. We have a yearly target for the traffic that flow through the NFVs and the cloudification of the operator. And we have the IoT. We are the largest operator in the region who launched the IoT. We have more than 10,000 sites today have been enabled by narrowband IoT, which is a key for 3GPP standard for the IoT technologies.
So for many years, the region, and in particular KSA, was seen as a consumption era. You know, you consume telecom, you consume data, you consume content from the rest of the world. How is this changing to become a producing?
Well, I believe, investment in talents, in the technology itself is the boundaries, and the game is shifting. Data itself, data is a gold mine today. So we're looking at the data as an enabler for other industries, not only in the region, not only in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, across the region. We are looking at the data and analytics and platforms such as security platforms, such as IoT platforms, as having the multiplier effect of the relation that we have with existing relation as telecom operator with customers.
And I believe STC is also producing talent.
Absolutely.
You're recruiting amazing talent, you're producing.
Absolutely, and we have launched our STC Academy last year. We have already more than 1,500 in the digital area this year only have been trained on whether cybersecurity, analytics, coding, etc., in partnership with MISC and the Ministry of ICT and others.
Do you believe the ecosystem you're developing is going to allow the kingdom to leapfrog?
Absolutely, with no doubt. We are most of what we are doing internally in STC is aligned with the 2030 vision, whether from investment in people, whether from building capability, whether from rolling out a new technology that will enable the other industry and other sectors.
So if we look at these, let's say the FANGs, the Facebooks, Apples, etc., they are painting a vision that at some point connectivity, which is, and His Excellency said so earlier, becomes a basic human right and effectively free. Where do you see that vision? Well,
the prices of connectivity has been eroding over time. It's now more affordable than ever before. So it is a fact that today connectivity is not a service by itself. It is an enabler for a lifestyle. So accordingly, even the United Nations now, there is advocate for reasonable prices for the connectivity because it's now sort of a must, not something good to have. Yet, I don't believe that the day will come where taxes and fees will subsidize, completely the connectivity. I look at operator perspective that connectivity should be rendered in a reasonable price, and the operator should look at the value-added services above the connectivity, not the connectivity itself.
Excellent. The technology you're providing allows, I was showing a map earlier, of where somebody can choose leisure versus work, when not to work, how much to depend on technology to deliver their work so they enjoy leisure. How are you packaging your services to enable people to make choices on what they want to do?
Well, through the engagement with customer, first of all, we're trying to deliver our services in contextualized and personalized way. So this is a key. We're utilizing the big data into making sure that we render the services as per the expectation from the customer. So once you have the data, once you have the brain and the artificial intelligence, once you have the technology capability and the cloud that you can offer these services, the rest come through.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Managing Partner, Alpha Intelligence Capital, Hong Kong, Antoine Blondeau.
So, Antoine.
Hey, Kush, how are you?
Very well. We hear about artificial intelligence. It's quite a tough word. Can you share with us how we should define artificial intelligence?
Defining AI, it's a tough topic because it means defining intelligence, which is a philosophical issue. And we're not here to debate philosophy, are we? No, usually when I talk to businesses about what AI is, I try to put it in context of what businesses do. And what you do every day in your life, you collect data, you make predictions, but you don't collect data because you like it, you don't make predictions because you like it. The only reason why you collect data and make predictions is because you want to make decisions. And when you make decisions, if you are quote-unquote intelligent, then you learn from it. You learn from the outcome of this decision so that the next time around you make a better decision. Well, that's what we do humans. Machines are the same. So fundamentally, what is AI? AI is a science and a business of self-learning decision-making engines that can learn from outcomes and get better over time, just like we humans are.
Should we be fearing AI?
So with any technology, you can embrace it and you can also fear it, for sure. Any tool has always two sides. It's what you make of it that matters. But look, human intelligence has over time created arguably a much better world. And so it follows that if we augment our intelligence, if we even decide to replace it by something that is better than our own, then arguably there is a good optimistic case here to be made, which is we're going to get to something that's better, where we become hyper-productive, hyper-efficient, a hyper-species. I think it's possible. I think it's more likely than the opposite negative scenario.
So the fear is that we become a hyper-species living in a much faster world, in a much faster way of recognizing what needs to happen, taking action faster.
Yeah, and look, we already, in many ways, we're already a hyper-species. Think about where we are compared to where we were 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. That is just accelerating, and tools like artificial intelligence will compound that acceleration.
So can you share with us what you are doing now that will change technology in the future? How can you express your current project?
Yeah, so after 20 years as an entrepreneur in machine learning and AI, when I started, this was not called machine learning and AI. It was called the science of algorithms, and I still consider it to be the science of algorithms. So after 20 years of this, I've switched and I've become an investor because I believe that there are very, very few investors in the world that really understand what it takes to build a machine learning-based company. It's a different animal. And so what I do now is I run a fund that invests in deep algorithmic science-based machine learning, which means companies that are willing and able to push the state of the art, to push the boundaries of AI, the AI science, but also apply this to very tangible, very clear products and businesses. And we do that worldwide, US, Europe, Asia, based out of San Francisco and Hong Kong.
So we hear the significant amount of investments that China is putting into AI, that France is putting into it, that the US is putting into it. Do you believe there is a role for this in the Arab world?
For sure. So the benefit, if you will, of AI is that, ironically, it is essentially the business of the human brain. It's ironic, but that's the case. And by definition, intelligence is everywhere. And so I firmly believe that you can have phenomenal projects coming out of the woodwork pretty much anywhere, including here. So I think it behooves us to be open-minded. It's about brains. It's actually a lot more about brains than about infrastructure, a lot more about brains than about means and financing.
What would you recommend the kingdom to be doing? What actions would you?
So I always say this to governments when they come and ask me about what's the secret sauce. And I always say it's all about investing in building, nurturing, and retaining the talent. So attract talent here, build the right curriculums in universities, attract the professors and students that are going to make the next companies, attract research centers from large corporations, invite them over so that they can leverage local talent and build an ecosystem around that. It's all about brains. It's about nothing else.
So if you take a star in your portfolio today and let's say describe it so that we can have some ambition to work towards.
Yeah, so you'll hear in a couple of sessions, you'll hear from one of our portfolio companies, a company called Another Brain based in Paris. But so I won't do his advertising, he'll do it himself. But we've invested in a company in San Francisco, or the Bay Area rather, recently, called and it's one of the very first companies that is able to create machine-originated knowledge. It's been very, very hard for machines to create knowledge. I mean, humans are very good at it, develop inferences, develop causality relationships, understand the consequences of events. Machines are very bad learners at that. And is one of these very first companies that is able to do that. One example of this, I think is very interesting, they're able to build semantic indexes. So, if you want to build a smart beta index today, you will take an analyst. It will take 6, 9, 12 months to do that. There's a lot of research. This company is able to do it in less than a week with much higher fidelity to the topic at hand and much also greater granularity. So very compelling.
So the talent pool that company is leveraging, where does it reside and how can the kingdom kind of bring that?
In that case, they're in the Bay Area, so obviously the talent is based locally. However, it comes from everywhere. I mean, that's part of the challenge, right? I mean, I used to run a 100 plus, 125 AI startup in San Francisco, and we had folks from everywhere. China, the Middle East, Europe, India, and a few Americans. So I think here, again, it's about making sure that you enable folks to come out here, that they have the right opportunities here, the right education, and retain those.
So we've heard we've got the market, we've got the youth, we've got the money, and we've got an open society to enable it. So I think the transformation is very possible.
It is.
Thank you very much.
Kush, it's a great pleasure.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chairman IDE DigiWorld Institute, France, Francois Barrault.
So when I met Francois this morning, I asked him about his biggest passion. And he said when he finished school and he got a good grade, his parents offered him a motorbike. And French people, they like to play, they like to have a motorbike. And he said, no, I want a computer. So you were one of the first buyers of a computer, and that's been your life. Can you share with us this passion?
Yeah, absolutely. It was in 1977. I was 16, so you know my age. And I was fascinated by technology, and I had my first computer. And then in 1993, I was one of the first 4 graduating artificial intelligence and robotics. By the way, on artificial intelligence, I like to do one statement. It's not new. Artificial intelligence has been on business in 60 years. A second statement, they will never replace us. So I know lots of people try to frighten us about that, but don't worry, they will never replace us.
So tell us the era of artificial intelligence we are in now and how that's going to change as it evolves.
Yeah, if I may, I will give you an example that explains what is artificial intelligence. In some countries, when you go to roundabout, you have 3,000 different sets of people, motorbikes or whatever. So you have cows or donkeys, then you have bicycle, you have bikes, you have tuk-tuk, you have cars, whatever. And guess what? You have never accident. Why? Because the bicycle knows he has to let the motorbikes go. The motorbikes will let the bus go. Those objects are connected. Doesn't respond to any laws, but they're connected. Now, if you replace the 3,000 communities by 3,000 Tesla or Lucid, because we've seen this car this morning, there will be never an accident. Why? Because the cars are connected. So if a car arrives, it will detect it, and the software embedded in the car will define whether the car will stop or the car will go. Now, if you have 2,999 Tesla or Lucid and one donkey, here's a problem. Because today, there is no computing power big enough to recognize it's a donkey. A kid, when he sees a donkey, after 3 iterations, he recognizes the donkey. A machine will need 4,000 iterations to recognize it's a donkey. So even if you have the biggest computer on the car, you will never recognize the donkey. So what happened? You have sensor, IoT on the car, that will collect the data, send through the spectrum, 4G, 5G, 6G, whatever. Then it goes into the cloud to look at what kind of animals, it's a donkey, what age, the context, and whatever. And then you will go and see in the web, on the cloud, what kind, if there is already this case happen, then it will compute it, send back the information to the car, and at 99.99.6%, it will take the right decision. When you look at all the chain, it starts by the sensor sending the data in the cloud, computing, coming back. One day, this will be faster than the human reflex. And then you can talk really about artificial intelligence because it's an emulation of the brain. We need to know also that the information in the brain, the speed is only 100 meters per second compared to the speed of light, 300 kilometers per second. But it's so small, so tiny, that it goes very fast. So what we try to do in artificial intelligence is to emulate the brain and the connection between our sense. We can listen, we can see, we can touch, and the right brain and the left brain will give orders to our body.
So I would love to be in that system where my watch knows the exercise I did yesterday and is able to communicate to my fridge what I should be eating. How far away are we from that?
I'm very interested also in medicine. It's crazy because when you take a car, when you go in a plane, you do a lot of checking, either fuel, how the weather, and whatever. In our modern world, modern society, you go to the doctor when you're sick and you do one check a year. In the near future, you will have a small chips that will analyze everything on your body and will send alerts either to your heart form, either to your GP, to warn. As an example, if you have a bad sleep, if you eat too much, if you are tired or whatever, it will give indication. Of course, you can share or not share the data, but it's like a car, like a plane, will have preventing real-time assessment of the body.
So this data is getting more and more personal. The artificial intelligence is allowing it to understand even better than we understand ourselves. What kind of protection and regulations and elements should each individual company and the countries be?
You know, when you buy a computer, I bought a Tesla. I give you an example. I had this car 3.5 years ago. I was so pleased to have this car that when I took it, they asked me to press the button I accept, and there were 60 pages of things I should never accept, by the way, because I know exactly where we are. We are in a system that if you share your data with the cloud or all those companies, you will get a lot of services. If you hide the data through VPN, through whatever, you will lose the services. So it's a win-win deal. You exchange, you get service. You don't exchange, you don't get the service. The big issue is not who owns the data, is where the data go. And we're not aware of all the data go. If you are on your iPhone, on confidentiality as an example, you can hide all the analytics and all what you're doing, but you need to be aware of that. 95% of my friends I ask was not aware of that. You can block that, but if you do that, you will lose services.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
gentlemen, please welcome CEO, Another Brain, France, Bruno Maisonnier.
Welcome, Bruno. So, Bruno is famous to have built the first ever robot. Can you tell us the story about the first robot and where it is now?
Yes. Hello, everyone, and first, thank you for still being here for the best talk of the day. Thank you. Yes, I just founded a company about artificial intelligence, but before that, I've created a company called Aldebaran Robotics, and I've designed Pepper the robot, and now Robot, another robot. And this company turned world leader in robotics with this interactive humanoid robot. So world leader when our competitors were called Sony, Google, Microsoft. So a small company in France is able to turn world leader in these high-tech businesses. And then SoftBank acquired my company 3 years ago.
So now the robot started to walk, to play, to dance, to cook. Where is it going?
Far away. Those robots, I don't know whether you have already seen them, Pepper robots. Those robots are amazing. They are the best robot you can buy all around the world, being in California, in China, in Japan, in Europe, wherever you want, in Saudi Arabia. They are the only robot you can buy. But at the same time, they are a little bit stupid. They are not able to interact with people. That means if someone is coming to the robot and waving hand, hey, hello, robot, I want to see you, which is the first thing someone is doing when in front of a robot, then the robot is not understanding that someone wants to interact. So we had to give them some kind of intelligence. So at that time, 10 years ago, I began thinking and working with artificial intelligence, with this deep learning that everyone is doing. But actually, deep learning is the technology that the previous speaker explained. That means it's not intelligent at all. It's very powerful, but with no intelligence. And if you want a robot to behave as you are expecting in a real world, that means the real world is very messy. In the streets, there are cars, there are everyone walking. But if it's in the room of your children, well, it's even more messy. So if you want the robot to behave properly in these different environments, the robot needs to have a real intelligence. So that's why I've created a company called Another Brain. Another Brain is a totally new paradigm of artificial intelligence. It's the next generation. You know, when Africa in the early 80s had to catch up with the telco infrastructure, they didn't decide to go for fixed infrastructure. They've been directly to mobility. They jumped over a generation. And it's the same with artificial intelligence. We have giants from California or from China, which are the leader in this artificial intelligence. But if you want to catch up, if we want to catch up, if Saudi Arabia, if the kingdom want to catch up, it's not in running after the giants that you will succeed. We have directly to go to the next generation, and it's what we are doing. So with Another Brain, I've created this company 1.5 years ago. We already have our algorithm developed. We already have proof of concept. I already have customers in the car business that are amazed with what we are bringing, much more powerful than deep learning and the mainstream artificial intelligence. So we already got there. So now I have a technology which is really far beyond the existing technology, but it's not with a better technology that you are succeeding. If I want to succeed, I have to create an ecosystem. There are a lot of companies with a better technology who died alongside the road. So if I want to succeed, I have to create an ecosystem. So that's why I'm here and meeting different people. I need to raise a lot of money because now I have the best technology around the world in artificial intelligence, which is something, but I have to go and create this ecosystem. So what will be the use cases of my technology? Self-driving cars, drones, healthcare, a lot of things where we need to have an intelligence that will, without needing big data. We don't need big data to have intelligence. As your brain, you met with me today as the first time, but you remember me. Your brain doesn't need to meet me 100,000 times to learn who I am. So it's the same with our artificial intelligence.
I wouldn't mind buying another brain. Is it available somewhere?
Yeah, it's big. So we are a French-based company, by the way. France is a country where AI is really part of the educational mix, with a high level in mathematics, high level in software, high level in concepts. So that's why the head of AI in Facebook is a French guy, the head of AI, the lead AI in DeepMind's Google is a French guy, in Intel is a French guy, in Sentient it's a French guy. So there is something close with French culture of mix of competencies.
So how do we ensure that that intelligence, that another brain, that AI and technology is brought to Saudi Arabia? What does the kingdom need to do to ensure that the ecosystem and the Arab world can benefit from this?
In my view, there are two things, but it's around creating, in the university, creating majors in AI, but jumping directly to this new generation of AI. Because here, it's possible to grow students, to grow engineers, to grow PhDs, who will have a mindset around this new way of doing artificial intelligence, which is really, really different, much more powerful, but really different. And it's not that someone expert in deep learning can switch easily towards this, what we are calling organic AI. Our artificial intelligence is organic AI, which means human-friendly, very frugal in energy, no big data, explainable results. It's the AI everyone is expecting. So it's what we are doing, and I'm sure Kingdom can help, helping us with investment, but can helping himself with this education, with universities, or with team of researchers that will partner with us, and really that will help the kingdom to jump to this next generation.
And are there specific parts of the ecosystem you would want to pick from here?
Now, artificial intelligence is a little bit like electricity. Each and every company is using electricity. Each and every company in the future will use artificial intelligence, whether they want or they don't want, but they have to. So everyone will use artificial intelligence. So the question for us has been to focus on some market, because, as I said, the goal is to develop ecosystems. So one around cars, everything linked with self-driving cars, where the kingdom is very involved in, and as well in the sensors and IoT, drones, robots, all these businesses around sensors and IoT. And I think, too, that the kingdom is interested in these fields.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for what you did. You did a very great job.
Is one more? So what we have heard is youth. We are going to invest in the future, into the youth. That's where all the speakers are coming from. I believe we had one more speaker, but perhaps it's over. I don't know. Okay. Let's wait a few minutes. No? Thank you very much.